much is an hour of your time worth? Whether you're a realtor, lawyer, accountant, or even a content creator, Stamps.com gives you the ability to focus your time on what you do best, not on tedious mailing and shipping tasks. Print stamps, shipping labels, or certified mail forms in seconds. More than 4 million customers have relied on Stamps.com to make their lives easier. Go to Stamps.com/audio for a special offer. No contract, cancel anytime. That's Stamps.com/audio.
1/3 of all murder cases in America remain open.
He had told me that if I opened my eyes, he would slit my throat.
Each one is called a cold case.
The DNA evidence taken from the victim was a match. The Linden rapist was at it again.
Based on the hit A&E television program.
A phone call is placed, one that changes a family's life forever.
Cold Case Files, the podcast.
You could see the fire in his eyes. He screamed at me, "You want it? Get your tape recorder out."
Get new episodes of Cold Case Files every Tuesday on Podcast One, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 246 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, what's going on, man?
Hey, man, I'm doing okay.
Hanging in there?
Hanging in there.
Starting off the new year right?
Well, you know, I'm a little under the weather. Somebody hit my truck, so...
Yeah, it's actually been a rough week for you.
Yeah. So.
Not to let too much out of the bag, but you'll make it through.
Yeah, but outside of that, everything's great, man.
You always do. Let's start out with our supporter shout-outs. For Patreon, we had Jennifer Wilhelm.
Hey, Jennifer.
Jesse White.
What's going on, Jesse?
Megan Riley.
Hey, Megan.
Angela.
Hey, appreciate that, Angela.
Matt McIntyre.
What's going on, Matt?
Brittany Evans.
Hey, what up, Brittany?
Steph Cox.
Hey, appreciate that, Cox.
Catherine McGillivray.
Well, McGilvory, eh?
Samantha Mansfield.
Hey, Samantha.
Carrie-Anna Lindow.
Lindow.
Ashley Miller.
Hey, Ashley.
Kelly Michelle.
Appreciate that, Kelly.
Jennifer Gearman.
Hey, Gearman.
And Diane Hart.
Oh, thanks, Diane.
And then if we go back into the vault, Gibbs, this week we selected Lisa Yitko.
Well, thanks, Lisa Yucko.
So we appreciate all the Patreon support that we get. We had some PayPal donations from Kelly Baker.
Thanks, Kelly.
Kimberly Silva.
Appreciate that, Kimberly.
Sue Lewis.
Thanks, Sue.
And Judy Larson.
Oh, thank you, Judy.
Yeah, thanks to everyone. It's very much appreciated. Gibbs, right now on True Crime All the Time, we have an episode out on Beverly Allett, an English nurse.
Yeah, terrible nurse.
Yeah, terrible nurse. She murdered a number of children in the children's ward.
Yeah.
At the hospital where she worked at. She tried to kill many more.
She sure did.
In what was really a short span of time. And eventually they figured out what she was doing and kind of brought her to justice.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting case because there's some things going on right now. She could be close to actually getting out, which has upset a lot of people.
Yeah, well, hopefully she doesn't.
All right, buddy. Are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved?
I am ready.
We are talking about the unsolved disappearance of Bryce Laspisa. The 2013 disappearance of a 19-year-old college sophomore, Bryce Laspisa, has sparked a lot of debate and controversy since it occurred. There's a lot of opinions online about this case, and I think people will see why. As we delve into the details, Bryce's car was found at the bottom of a California ravine after police believe he deliberately drove it over the cliff, but his body was never found. Bryce apparently walked away from the crash, but has never been seen again. So, I think one of the first questions that jumps out to everyone about this case, why would Bryce do such a thing when he was, by all accounts, living a good and happy life?
Yeah, and if he did do that, Where's he now?
Yeah. I mean, it's part of the mystery that is involved in a lot of these unsolved cases. So let's jump right into the episode. Bryce Laspisa was a college sophomore at the end of the summer of 2013, according to interviews with his parents for ID Discovery. Bryce had spent the summer break with his parents at his childhood home in Laguna Niguel, California. Bryce was the only child of Mike and Karen Laspisa. He had distinctive red hair and freckles, and what was described as a truly infectious grin.
Oh, like my grin.
Very
Yeah.
infectious.
Sure.
You are extremely infectious
That's what they said at the CDC.
in a number of different ways.
Yeah.
But Bryce was a gifted artist and had just completed his first year in the graphic arts program at Sierra College, located in Rockland, California. Bryce had a loving and sweet girlfriend named Kim that he had been seeing, and the two were devoted to one another. And again, Gibbs, this all ties back to us saying, from the outside and even partly on the inside, according to his family and everyone, Bryce was living a happy life.
Hey, man, a good, happy life goes a long way in most cases.
And he had a lot of things going for him. In their interviews for the show Disappeared on ID Discovery, Bryce's parents said that in mid-August 2013, they had finished loading Bryce's belongings into the trunk of their car, and they drove him to his apartment in Rockland in time for the start of his sophomore year at Sierra College. It was a 7-hour drive north. During the drive, Bryce and his parents talked. They laughed a lot. Bryce had a very close relationship with his parents, and he was very open with them about what was going on in his life.
It kind of reminds me of how you are with your daughter. So I can see you traveling 7 hours in a car with, your daughter that goes to college and just laughing and talking a lot on the way.
Yeah. The other thing that really jumps out at me, and I think why this is probably so important, if Bryce really did have a very close relationship with his parents, as everyone seems to say,
right,
and he was very open with them, he most likely would have told them.
Yeah.
If there was something troubling him, if there was something bothering him that was then later going to cause him to do something rash.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
I mean, I think, that's what I'm taking from this.
Again, I mean, I've said it. I think you and your family, how you guys are with your girls, you guys are very open. I've sat at your table for dinner and I've heard things that nobody should ever have to hear.
Especially, a friend coming over to tape a podcast.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. And I've told my daughters that on many occasions. Yeah. There are some things that we keep inside the family, but they just don't seem to care.
No.
They just let it fly.
Huh. I walk away doing exactly that. Huh.
But the one thing I will say, you would think that someone would be very open about something that's bothering them. Yeah. But I don't think that's always the case. Even in a very open relationship, sometimes there are things that people just don't want to disclose. And so I do want to make that caveat. I don't want people to think that I'm saying without a doubt he would have told them everything, because I'm not sure anyone does that.
No, I think it's a very valid point. I know that me and my kids are very close. I have a really good relationship with my daughter. And I know in the past there's things that she didn't tell me about.
Sure.
Because she had her reasons, and it doesn't matter how close you think you are. Like you said, sometimes they just need to hold those things closer to them and they don't want to share.
Yeah, absolutely. After his parents got Bryce settled into his apartment, which he shared with his close friend and roommate, Sean, Bryce's parents made the 7-hour return trip home to Laguna Niguel. They were happy for him. They were excited about his upcoming college year. They talked about how Bryce loved his college and the graphic arts program. He had a ton of friends. He had an amazing girlfriend. Really, Gibbs, they could not have been happier for their son.
Yeah.
It felt like he was on the right track. He was in a good place, and he had everything going for him.
That's a great feeling for a parent to have.
Sure.
You feel like you've done everything right at that moment. I'm also visualizing you.
Did you just say in visualizing?
I'm also visualizing you on your second year of college, getting your so-called questionable money-making scheme set up so you can start having some beer money and pizza money right away with
right from the
your
get-go.
roommates were.
Sure,
yeah.
right from the get-go. According to Medium.com, a few days after his parents dropped him off at college, both his best friend Sean and his girlfriend Kim noticed that Bryce was drinking large amounts of hard liquor. Now, it was said, Gibbs, that even though Bryce was a good kid, his parents were very proud of him. He wasn't a saint. I mean, he partied as most college kids his age did.
Oh, I mean, how many times have we, when growing up, been at parties in colleges and you remembered how some of these kids were back at home and how they acted now, how they acted then in college was night and day.
Sure. Well, once you get that freedom,
yeah,
for a lot of kids, they cut loose.
Sure they do.
Sometimes they go too far.
Yeah.
Maybe they were restricted at home, as most of us were, but now you're free. Mom and dad's not looking over your shoulder. You're free to do whatever you want, and hopefully you make the best decisions that you can. A lot of us made some questionable decisions, and that's kind of part of growing up.
Is that the, what's the saying you like to say? Let your freak flag fly?
Sure.
Yeah.
That's part of it. But I think when it came to Bryce, when he got back to college in the fall of 2013, his alcohol intake drastically increased. So much so that it got to the point where those close to him got really worried.
More of a concern.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing to go out drinking. Let's be honest. Most of us did, especially in college. But you can tell when somebody changes.
Right.
Okay. Maybe they're no longer just drinking on the weekend. Maybe they're no longer just drinking a 6-pack. Maybe they're now drinking a 5th of Jack a day.
Yeah.
So that's obviously a huge change in their behavior. I'm not saying he was drinking a 5th of Jack a day, but you can see in some people that type of change.
Sure. It calls for alarm.
Whatever his drinking habit change was, it was alarming to those around him.
Very noticeable.
Kim told reporters at the Santa Clarita Valley Signal that even more worrisome was that Bryce was also experimenting with the prescription drug Vyvanse, a powerful stimulant used to treat severe attention deficit disorder, or ADD cases. According to several news outlets, Bryce was never diagnosed with ADD. It was said that he used the medicine to stay up late to play video games.
Well, when you're trying to be a legend in certain games, you got to rack up the hours.
You do, but you got to be careful with using powerful drugs to do that.
Right.
So Bryce was reportedly, experimenting with these prescription drugs. You combine that with the large amounts of hard liquor he was consuming, no doubt his friends began to seriously worry about his health and safety. His girlfriend Kim noted that he was acting erratically and the amount he was drinking scared her. It seemed that Bryce's drinking combined with the drug use was causing his personality to change. That will happen.
Yeah.
Or it can happen.
Well,
for sure.
Yeah. I mean, between the drinking and the medication plus lack of sleep, potentially.
I mean, I think some of those just on their own can do that.
Yeah.
Now, you combine powerful prescription drugs with hard alcohol, things can happen.
Yeah.
She said he was acting anxious, skittish, almost paranoid. This wasn't like him. And I think the other thing that was worrisome to Kim and Sean was that they didn't know what to do. They did not know how to help him.
Yeah, that's sometimes tough, right? When you see a friend going down that path, how do you jump in? When do you jump in? And can you jump in?
Well, they did confront him about his substance abuse. They asked him what was wrong, what was causing him to act this way. And no doubt they thought it was out of character for him. Bryce maintained that nothing was wrong. He was fine. He chalked it up to just wanting to enjoy his college years. sow some wild oats while he could.
Well, I mean, there's something to be said about that too, right? I mean, when you go off to college, it is your time to get a little crazy.
I did, and I don't hide it. I've told my kids about it.
Yeah.
Did I go overboard at certain times? There is no doubt.
Right.
There are nights that I don't remember. Am I proud of that? I wouldn't say proud.
Why are you trying to high-five me right now?
No, but I never got to the point where I had a problem.
Right.
And I've never had a problem with alcohol. I could take it or leave it.
Yeah.
I drank because others were drinking, peer pressure, and yeah, I had a good time.
Sure.
But now, for years, I haven't hardly drank at all. It was never something in my personality that grabbed me.
Right. And that says a lot for you because you do have an addictive personality.
I do, but not when it comes to alcohol and or drugs.
Yeah.
It just has never been that way. So Bryce was telling everyone he was fine. Kim and Sean weren't buying these excuses. They were convinced that something had happened to Bryce over the summer. They thought it was something bad, but they had no idea what it could have been. What they believed was that Bryce was using his drinking and drug use to cope with whatever had happened. According to Medium.com, on August 28th, 2013, 2 weeks after Bryce returned to college, he and Sean were alone in their apartment when Bryce removed the diamond stud earrings he always wore and told Sean that he wanted him to have them. Sean told Bryce that he knew the earrings were a gift from his mother, and he knew how important they were to Bryce, so he couldn't accept them. Bryce then unplugged his Xbox and tried to give that to Sean. Sean refused all of this stuff, telling Bryce that everything was too expensive. He just couldn't accept this stuff.
It would be kind of weird if you're with your roommate and best buddy, and all of a sudden he takes out, these diamond stud earrings and say, hey, I want you to have these. Oh, by the way, here's my Xbox, which we know how people revere their Xbox.
Nobody wants to give up their Xbox. Let's just be honest.
Yeah. So for your friend to say, here, take my Xbox too, it's got to be a little bit unnerving, I think.
Well, I definitely think it would be when it comes on the heels of, everything we just talked about, right? The drinking, the prescription drug use, acting erratically, and now you have this.
Yeah.
It's almost like, okay, not only are these things expensive, but why do you want to give them away?
Exactly.
There has to be a reason, and I'm scared of what the reason might be.
Yeah, why unplug it? Why not just say, hey, I want you to have that Xbox, but let's keep playing, man.
Or you can use it whenever you want.
Yeah.
Bryce told Sean that he was important to him, and he wanted him to have those things. As Sean was sitting there, I think he was wondering how to handle the situation. He saw Bryce aggressively texting on his phone. He said he was agitated. He appeared angry. And then Bryce looked over at Sean and told him he had just broken up with Kim.
Well, that explains why he was probably angry and maybe a little agitated.
But Sean was shocked, right? Because he had just witnessed the couple over the past year. He knew what kind of relationship they had. He said that they were extremely devoted to each other. So that had to have been a little shocking.
Yeah. So you have to wonder, why did Bryce break up with her?
According to storiesoftheunsolved.com, as well as ID Discovery, Sean definitely knew something was wrong with his friend. There was no way Bryce would break up with Kim. I mean, Gibbs, he had just seen the two together earlier that day. They were acting as though nothing was wrong. They seemed like the perfect couple. They doted on each other. They were extremely close. It just didn't make any sense that Bryce would break up with her, and especially break up with her by text message.
Yeah, that's like the worst, man.
Well, nobody wants to be broken up with, but certainly not through a text message.
Yeah. Sorry, honey, this is not working out. We're broken up.
I've been married a long time, so the last time I dated, there were no text messages.
That's true.
So I was never actually broken up via a text message.
Yeah.
It probably would have happened, but it didn't.
You got lucky, huh?
I got lucky.
Yeah.
Well, I still got dumped. It just wasn't by text message.
You couldn't talk your way back into their in their heart, huh? No.
So you have Bryce trying to give Sean, these items that were important to him. You have him breaking up with his girlfriend. Sean knew someone needed to intervene because Bryce needed help. Sean located the phone number for Mike and Karen, Bryce's parents. Eventually, Bryce left the apartment to visit Kim to talk about their breakup, and Sean used that opportunity to call his parents. He told Mike and Karen that something was wrong with Bryce. He was abusing drugs and alcohol and acting erratically. He just wasn't his normal self.
So I think as a parent, you appreciate that type of phone call, but you also have to wonder what in the heck is going on.
Yeah, I agree. You would want to know if something was going on with your child. I think at the same time, Gibbs, they had to have been probably a little stupefied because I don't believe they'd seen anything like that. Karen thanked Sean for the call, and after she hung up, she received another call that came in from Bryce's phone. But when Karen answered, it wasn't Bryce on the line, it was Kim. She apologized for calling, but told Karen that Bryce was acting strangely, so much so that she took his keys because she felt as though he was unsafe to drive. Kim also told Karen that Bryce's drinking and drug use had gotten out of hand and that he needed some help. So the first call, you're probably wondering, okay, how severe is this? Right. Is this a knee-jerk reaction? Now, right on the heels of that call, you receive a call from your son's girlfriend with the exact same message.
Yeah.
So I think at that point, the alarm bells start to go off because now there's corroboration.
With the two most important people in his life outside of his parents.
Exactly. And I think that is important. This is not a stranger or kind of an acquaintance on the periphery. You're right. These are very, very close friends and a girlfriend. True Crime All the Time Unsolved is brought to you by Progressive. Progressive helps you get a great rate on car insurance, even if it's not with them. They have this nifty comparison tool that puts rates side by side, so you choose a rate and coverages that work for you. So let's say you're interested in lowering your rate on your car insurance. Visit Progressive.com to get a quote with all the coverages you want. You'll see Progressive's rate, and then their tool will provide options from other companies, all lined up and easy to compare. So that's all you have to do is choose the rate and coverages you like. Progressive gives you options so you can make the best choice for you. You could be looking forward to saving money in the very near future. More money for, say, a pair of noise-canceling headphones, an Instapot, more puzzles, whatever brings you joy. Get a quote today at Progressive.com. It's one small step you can do today that could make a big impact on your budget tomorrow. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy. Oh man, Gibbs, I love that sound. It makes me smile. It's the sound of another sale on Shopify, the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow your business. Shopify gives entrepreneurs the resources once reserved for big business. So upstarts, startups, and established businesses alike can sell everywhere, synchronize online and in-person sales, and effortlessly stay informed. We've been using Shopify for many years now to sell our merch. Like ours, Shopify powers millions of businesses from first sale to full scale. And Shopify is more than a store. Shopify grows with you. It allows you to connect with your customers, drive sales, manage your day-to-day. Shopify instantly lets you accept all major payment methods. Discover your possible. Shopify unlocks the opportunity of your business to more people every day. Every 28 seconds, an entrepreneur like you makes their first sale on Shopify. Go to shopify.com/unsolved, all lowercase, for a free 14-day trial and get full access to Shopify's entire suite of features. Grow your business with Shopify today. Go to shopify.com/unsolved right now. Shopify.com/unsolved. Karen asked Kim to put Bryce on the phone and asked him what was going on. Bryce said that he had broken up with Kim, and that's why Kim was calling. Bryce told his mother that he just wanted to return home to his apartment, and she needed to tell Kim to give him back his keys so that he could leave.
Well, as a mom, this is a lot of information coming in, right? You just had the previous call, now you got this call, and now you're talking to your son. He's saying, they don't know what they're talking about. She's just upset I broke up with her. I just want my keys, Mom. tell her to give me my keys.
Yeah, I think from Karen's point of view, she didn't really know exactly what to make of it. So she put Mike on the phone to speak with Bryce. Mike talked to Bryce and said he sounded fine. He wasn't slurring his words. He sounded just like he normally did. So the two parents got together briefly, and then Karen got back on the phone with Bryce, telling him that she would fly out tomorrow morning to make sure that he was okay and check on the situation.
Yeah, I think I would do the same.
Yeah, I think a lot of parents would.
Yeah.
Whether it was a short drive or whether you had to get on a plane. You're hearing some information that has to worry you, even though your son is saying the opposite. You still have to be concerned.
Yeah.
That these two people who you know to be stand-up people, honest people, probably, are telling you one thing. Okay, could it be true?
Yeah.
But Bryce got upset when his mom told him that she was going to come out. He told her, I have a lot to talk to you about, but until I do, I don't want you to come up here. And this was a kind of a vague comment, right? Karen didn't really understand what he was talking about.
And that's one thing I can't stand.
Vagueness?
Yeah. When someone says, hey, I really need to tell you something, but they never tell you or anything like that, it drives me nuts because I'm like, well, then just tell me, you know?
Or don't tell me that you have something to tell me if you can't tell me.
Exactly. Because it just eats at me all day. Now I told you that. Now you're going to say, hey, Gibbs, I really need to tell you something, but I'll tell you next week. And
but I've been sworn to secrecy.
Yeah, been sort of secrecy.
Well, and I think the other thing that probably bothered her, Gibbs, is we just got done talking about it, right? They had a very open relationship where I think as a family, they felt as though they could talk about anything. Now Bryce is saying, I can't tell you. Well, that flies in the face of the open relationship.
Sure does.
Bryce then again said he just wanted to leave and go home to his apartment. And he asked his mother again to tell Kim to return his keys. So Karen got back on the phone with Kim and told her that everything was fine and asked her to please return Bryce's keys so that he could leave. Karen then told Bryce to call her as soon as he got home to his apartment so that they would know he was safe, which Bryce promised to do. Kim gave Bryce his keys and he left her apartment. So this was around 11:30 p.m. And Karen called Bryce again, reminding him to go straight home to his apartment and to call her when he arrived so that she wouldn't worry.
Well, you know, nothing wrong with being persistent as a mom.
And speaking as a son, sometimes I had to be reminded multiple times about things.
Yeah, me too.
About an hour later, Bryce called his parents to tell them he had arrived home and was going to bed, and he promised to speak with them the following day. So there had to have been some relief.
Sure, yeah.
There for his parents because I think they were probably extremely worried. But now he's home safe. He's going to bed. Okay, we feel better.
Yeah, we can pick this up tomorrow and figure out what's really going on.
According to the Santa Clarita Valley Signal, at around 11:30 a.m. on August 29th, the Laspisas got an automated call from their car insurance company confirming that roadside assistance had been used for their Toyota Highlander, which was Bryce's car. Karen was confused because the last time she spoke with her son, he was at his apartment. She wondered if he'd gotten up early and run into trouble on the road, or perhaps he had car trouble the previous night, but didn't want to worry his parents. So he didn't mention it during his last call.
Well, that would be a alarming call to get if you didn't know anything around what occurred.
Well, and especially on the heels of everything that happened the previous night. So Karen tried to call Bryce, but he didn't answer his phone. So then she called Sean. Sean told her that Bryce wasn't at their apartment and that he didn't come home the night before. Sean said he hadn't seen Bryce since he left to see Kim the day before.
As a parent, my anxiety level would be going through the roof.
Yeah, I think the pit in your stomach develops very quickly as soon as you hear about this. So obviously Gibbs, Karen was growing concerned. And I think she was kind of in that spot. Do I call the police? Do I wait? And then I think Bryce's parents remembered that he had a credit card that they gave him to use. So they decided to check the statement to see if it would tell them where Bryce might be.
Well, you got to love online statements, man.
Yeah, I mean, they can tell you a lot. They learned that his last purchase was that morning at a car repair shop in Buttonwillow, California, which was about halfway between his college campus and the family home in Laguna Niguel. It seemed to them that Bryce was driving back to their home, perhaps to speak with them in person about these things that he alluded to the previous night on the phone call with his mom.
Yeah, and as a parent, I'd be happy. Like, oh, okay, at least he's coming home. He's halfway.
We'll get to the bottom of this.
Yeah.
I can talk to him in person. According to Medium.com, Karen called the car repair shop and spoke with an employee named Christian. She asked him if he had seen her son that morning, and she described Bryce in his car. Christian told her that they had responded to Bryce's request for roadside assistance earlier when he had run out of gas on Interstate 5. Apparently, he had pulled into a rest stop to wait for help. Karen asked if Bryce happened to mention where he was headed after that, but Christian said that he hadn't. He said he delivered the gas to Bryce and then left without having any type of conversation of a personal nature.
Well, that's about normal. I don't think too many people are having personal conversations with their AAA or roadside assistant person.
Complete stranger.
Yeah.
You know, you're not divulging a ton of information.
Right.
Christian sensed Karen's worry and fear, and he offered to drive back over to the rest stop to see if Bryce was still there. It was only about a 15-minute drive from the auto shop, and the Laspisas were very grateful for the offer. Now, Christian wasn't hopeful that he would encounter Bryce still sitting there at the rest stop because it had been several hours since he'd delivered the gas.
It'd be very strange for him to still be there.
Yeah, but he sounds like a nice guy, and he drove over anyway to help out Karen and Mike. According to Visaka.com, Christian was shocked when he pulled into the Buttonwillow rest stop and found Bryce still sitting in his Toyota Highlander. He said it appeared as though he was just staring into space. He really wasn't doing much of anything. Christian walked over to get Bryce's attention, and Bryce was surprised to see Christian again. He rolled down his window, and Christian said he had just spoken with his parents, and they were very worried about him. So Christian pulled out his cell phone, and he called Karen and told her that he was with Bryce in the Buttonwillow rest area.
I'm sure his parents were confused. Why are you still sitting in a rest stop after you got gasoline hours ago? I mean, I've been at rest stops before. I know you've been at rest stops.
You knew I was getting ready to say something.
I did.
But it is strange.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. Rest stops are convenient. If you got to pull over and use the restroom, maybe get you a bag of chips or a pop.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever just sat in the parking lot for hours staring into space. Now, maybe he was deep in thought. He was trying to figure out his next move. You can theorize on a number of different things. When Karen got on the phone with Bryce, she wanted to know what he was doing. But Bryce deflected all her questions, basically giving her vague answers, said that he wasn't doing anything. He was just sitting there and that he would get back on the road in a minute. Karen begged Bryce to just come home and said that they would be able to solve any problems that he might be experiencing. And it was at that point that Bryce told his mother that he would drive the rest of the way home. He handed the phone back to Christian, who informed Bryce's parents that it appeared Bryce was getting ready to leave the rest area. And then he hung up. But apparently Christian watched Bryce for several moments and didn't see him leave. And finally he decided that, hey, I got to get back to my shop.
Yeah, I got business to take care of.
The drive from Buttonwillow to Laguna Niguel is about 3 hours. So Bryce's parents calculated that he would arrive somewhere around 3 p.m. By 3:30, he still hadn't arrived.
Well, so you're going to run what, into different scenarios. Well, he probably hit traffic. Maybe he got off the highway, got something to eat. You're going to make all kind of excuses why he didn't get there on time.
Well, it is California.
It is California, too.
You can hit some traffic. But no doubt they were worried because of everything leading up to this point. So the more time that passed where he didn't show up, the more worried that they would have gotten. According to ID Discovery, when Bryce still hadn't arrived home by 6 p.m., the Laspisas went to the police to file a report on Bryce as a missing person. The police began their search for Bryce by contacting AT&T, his cell phone provider, to see if they could locate him by triangulating his cell signal, which AT&T agreed to do.
I think the problem with this is that they didn't like the answer they got back from AT&T.
No, AT&T reported that Bryce was still in Buttonwillow, just down the road from the rest area, parked in the lot of a hotel. So police in Laguna Niguel contacted authorities in Buttonwillow to let them know that Bryce was a missing person, and they also gave them his current location at the hotel parking lot. Buttonwillow authorities agreed to drive over to check on Bryce, and when they got there, they found him sitting in his Toyota Highlander, just staring out the windshield. When officers questioned him, he really didn't say why he was parked there. But the officers reported that he was lucid. He seemed fine. They didn't believe that he was under the influence of any drugs or alcohol. They had Bryce participate in a field sobriety test just to be safe, which he easily passed. Bryce also gave them permission to search his car, which they did, and they didn't turn up anything of concern. The officers tried to get Bryce to call his parents by telling him that they were worried about him. They had filed a missing persons report. And Gibbs, it was at the mention of calling his parents that Bryce became apprehensive. This was something that, police picked up on, but he finally did make the call to his parents. And at one point, an officer wanted the phone so that he could speak to Bryce's mother. He told her that Bryce seemed fine, although he had no idea why he was just sitting there parked in the hotel lot. But he did say that he was sober and there was nothing of concern in the car. Basically, Gibbs, what he told her was there wasn't anything for the police to do.
Yeah.
There was no need for them to intervene because he wasn't doing anything wrong.
Wasn't breaking the law.
He wasn't endangering himself. He wasn't endangering anyone else. So they had to leave him alone.
If he wants to sit here, he can sit here.
So then the officer handed the phone back to Bryce so that he could speak with his mother. Obviously, Gibbs, she was so worried. Number one, she wanted to know why Bryce was still in Buttonwillow instead of on his way home. I mean, we're talking about many hours.
Yeah, he could have been home by now.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
And I think one of the big problems was that Bryce just didn't have an answer for his mother's questions. He just kept telling her that he was fine.
But as a parent, that's going to eat at you, right? It's like, okay, you're fine, but why are you just sitting? It doesn't make sense to me.
Right. Give me a reason.
Yeah.
Tell me something.
Yeah.
Karen begged Bryce to get something to eat and maybe a cup of coffee and then just drive home. And Bryce told her that he would.
So really, Bryce is going to tell her the same thing, right? I'm going to leave, Mom. I'll be home soon. Don't worry. Everything's fine. And you should see me in a few hours.
And what else is his mom going to do but believe him, right? She has to believe that he's going to do what he is saying he's going to do.
Yeah.
Start the car and drive home.
The only alternative you have is to get in your own car and start driving that direction.
So the officer had checked on him, found nothing to worry about, wished Bryce well, and left the parking lot for another call. According to Medium.com, about an hour later, Karen received another call from Christian, the auto repair guy. He was returning an earlier call from Karen, and she brought him up to speed, told Christian everything was okay, and that Bryce was on his way home. And again, Gibbs, this guy offered to drive over to the hotel just to check on Bryce. Karen said, no need. everything's fine. But he headed over anyway. And when he got there, he found Bryce still sitting in his Highlander, just staring out the window. And I think, Gibbs, this guy felt bad.
Yeah.
For Karen and Mike and what they were going through. I don't know if this is correct or not, but it almost seems as though he felt like he had to make sure that Bryce started on his way home. He was just not going to leave this time.
Right, because it didn't work in the past.
Right.
Yeah.
So he asked Bryce to roll down his window. Bryce told him he was getting ready to leave. He wasn't going to live with that. So he said, you know what? I'll follow you. The two left the parking lot with Christian driving behind Bryce for about an hour.
Well, that's really dedication right there.
It really is. This guy doesn't know any of these people.
Yeah.
Other than he took Bryce some gas. He's talked to his parents on the phone a couple of times.
Right. But I'm guessing he probably heard in Karen's voice
the concern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, and maybe he's a parent too. And he said, you know what?
Maybe.
I got to do whatever I can for her.
Either way, you got to think that this is a pretty good guy.
Yeah.
To really go out of his way to help these people that he really doesn't know.
Yeah.
So after about an hour, Christian felt good that Bryce was really on his way home. He even called Karen and Mike to update them during the drive, to let them know that Bryce really was on the road and that he would be home soon. So after that, Christian exited the highway and Bryce continued on. According to storiesoftheunsolved.com, Karen then called Bryce and told him that she wanted him to give her landmarks as he passed them so that she would know that he really was on his way home. But Bryce refused to do this, saying it was too dark. He couldn't see anything. His parents wouldn't let up. They wanted to know about road signs, anything that he could see.
And I'm sure it was annoying, but I also can understand why they were asking this. At this point, they probably felt, well, you're so close to being home, right? You were 3 hours. Now you're 2 hours from home. We just want to make sure you actually get here.
But around 2 a.m., when he should have arrived home, or at the very least been very close to home, Bryce said that he was tired and that he was going to pull over so that he could sleep for a little bit. His mother begged him not to, telling him, just get home and you can sleep as long as you want. But Gibbs, I think she thought about it a little bit and she realized that Bryce had been awake for almost 24 hours at that point. It's the middle of the night. So she relented. She finally agreed that it was a good idea for him to pull over and take a nap before continuing the rest of the drive home. But they did ask Bryce to call them as soon as he was back on the road, and he agreed to do that.
And that would be tough. I'd have to make that decision if I should drive the hour and a half, 2 hours to go retrieve my son or allow him to get a little bit of rest and then bring it home after he woke up. But it would be tough knowing how the whole day went.
And how close he was.
Yes.
Yeah, I get that. And I'm sure they thought about it as well.
Sure.
According to ID Discovery, on August 30th, 2013, at 8 a.m. the next morning, the Laspisas still hadn't heard from Bryce, but told themselves that he was probably still sleeping. When their doorbell rang, Karen and Mike ran to the door. They thought it was Bryce, finally arriving home, but it wasn't. It was a police officer on their doorstep asking if they owned a 2003 Toyota Highlander.
Well, there's where the fears jump in.
Oh, I think at that point, it's sky high.
Yeah.
You know, you've been worried now for quite a long time. You know, the pit in the stomach, the constant worrying, but this is an entirely different level.
Yeah.
This is something's wrong. I'm about to hear something that I do not want to hear.
Yeah.
Karen and Mike confirmed that that was the car driven by their son, Bryce. The officer told them that the car had been found several hours ago at the bottom of a 25-foot cliff near Castaic Lake, which was about halfway between Buttonwillow and Laguna Niguel. The officer told them that there was no sign of a driver at the crash scene, but they had found 2 small drops of blood inside the car, and the back window had been kicked out from the inside, which is how the driver escaped from the wreck. Bryce's laptop and cell phone were found inside the vehicle, while his duffel bag and wallet were on the ground outside of the car. And it looked as though they had been rummaged through before being abandoned. So this is it, Gibbs. This is what I said they would not have wanted to hear.
This is really bad news. I'm sure they're thinking the worst scenario.
Well, the optimism that they must have had was that he wasn't found.
Yeah.
So their thinking is that, okay, something happened, but he's still alive. He's still okay. He's somewhere.
We just got to find him.
But it's not good news. It can't have been an easy thing to hear. After examining the car, the tire tracks, and viewing the CCTV footage from nearby traffic cameras, police concluded that Bryce drove off the cliff intentionally and that he had even hit the accelerator right before he did so. They ruled the accident an attempted and failed suicide. Mike and Karen were stunned by the news. And what parent wouldn't be?
True.
They had just seen their son 2 weeks ago when they dropped him off at college. I mean, he was home for the entire summer, and they just couldn't reconcile their son with the bright future against someone who was experiencing enough despair to take his own life.
Yeah, I mean, you have to ask yourself that question, right? What happened in 2 weeks that would make somebody go from this to that?
And I absolutely get that, right? My daughter is off at college. I don't see her for weeks at a time. Now she'll come home on the weekends sometimes, and I get a sense of how she's doing. Obviously, we talk about it.
Yeah.
But when she's home for the entire summer and I have that much time to spend with her, I really get a sense of how she's doing mentally. And so I understand from that standpoint what they must have been feeling.
Yeah.
Just not being able to understand what had happened in such a short amount of time.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're questioning that whole summer. What did I miss? What did I not see or understand that I should have?
Well, and then I think they probably went back to did this have something to do with the combination of drugs and alcohol? You know, did he have some type of break with reality?
Yeah.
We mentioned it. He was sitting in the car staring out a number of different times.
And
why?
What did he really need to discuss with his mom that he couldn't do it over the phone with? What was that?
Well, that had to be going through, their minds as well.
Yeah.
Was he in trouble? And no doubt Mike and Karen were desperate for answers. I mean, you'd be frantic.
Of course.
At that point. A massive search was launched around the area where Bryce's car was found. People on horseback and ATVs combed the area, while helicopters flew overhead and divers searched the entire lake, but no sign of Bryce was discovered. On the 9th day of the search, police investigators brought in scent dogs to see if they could pick up Bryce's trail. The first dog tracked Bryce's scent from the crash scene by the lake all the way around the lake to the other side, over a bridge, and up a small access road that led to a truck stop where it seemed that the scent disappeared.
It's amazing that dogs can do that.
It's always amazing to me that they could do that. But there's a couple of things here that I want to break down. Why wait to the 9th day of the search?
That's the same thing I was wondering.
To bring in dogs.
Why not immediately?
Knowing what dogs can do.
Yeah.
And then, the tracking from the crash site around the lake up to this truck stop. What else can you theorize other than he got out of the car, made his way around the lake, up the hill to this truck stop, and then hitched a ride or got a ride from someone because the scent just disappeared. They brought in a second dog, which confirmed the same scent trail as the first, ending at the truck stop. And really, this was the only lead that investigators had pertaining to Bryce. There was no further activity to help lead investigators to his current whereabouts.
So I think you're right. I think you have to ask the question, did he get to the truck stop and hitchhike, caught a ride with somebody, and left the area.
So Gibbs, as we wrap up this episode, it's very mysterious. This is a real head scratcher. Bryce Laspisa remains missing to this day. His parents continue to search for him. He vanished under such mysterious circumstances. And really since August 30th of 2013, there's been no reported sightings. No one has reported hearing from Bryce. Some people believe that Bryce's car crash was an attempt by him to take his own life, and maybe that he completed that after leaving the scene of the crash.
Well, when you take your car off a side of a cliff 25 feet, I don't think you're doing it for a joyride.
No, I do want to go back to the determination by investigators that this was intentional. I get it. There was footage. They were able to tell that he accelerated. Now, is it possible that someone could have some type of medical issue, push their foot down on the gas? I think that's possible.
Sure. Or with a combination of drugs and alcohol, or just a certain drug maybe could have caused that.
Now, that would have had to have happened between, the last sighting of him.
Yeah.
But it's possible that he could have stopped off somewhere, gotten something.
Yeah. You always hear about these accidents where people have consumed too many drinks and they tend to walk away from accidents a lot easier than people that have not had any drinks, because maybe their body's more relaxed. Or
are you advocating for drinking if you're going to get in an accident?
No, I'm just trying to say maybe that's why he was able to leave the scene. So
yeah, I really haven't heard that, but okay, maybe he was more relaxed. Maybe he didn't suffer as severe of injuries as maybe he would have if he was all tensed up. I don't know. That's the thing about these cases. You can go a bunch of different ways. There are some people that believe Bryce suffered a severe head injury in the accident that perhaps caused him to lose his memory. I mean, it was a 25-foot drop.
Yeah, that could have happened easily.
And we have done cases
We sure have.
where people claim that after an accident, they lost their memory. They were unaware of the life that they, were leading at the time.
I mean, how many times did I lose my memory when I worked for you? Like,
by my estimation, quite a few.
There was a lot of accidents that happened on the way to work.
But let's say he did suffer amnesia. Couldn't remember, who he was, the people who loved him. That obviously is a theory that you have to discuss.
Yeah.
Another theory is that Bryce deliberately walked away from his life, maybe due to some unknown trouble where he felt as though he needed to leave his old life behind and live off the grid.
It can be done, but it'd be really hard to do.
I think it definitely would be in 2013. Not saying it's not possible. We're not talking 1956.
Right.
Where it would have been a lot easier. But just think of the fact that CCTV footage caught him driving the car.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just one of the things that would trip you up while you were trying to live off the grid. And the second thing is, he wasn't a billionaire.
No.
He was a college student. Had he amassed this fortune that he was going to use to live off the grid? I always am kind of leery about even broaching that subject. It is a theory. I think you do need to discuss it. It's just not one that I really think is all that plausible, in this kind of modern time.
Yeah.
I think it would be so much harder to do than it would have been 50, 60 years ago.
I think it makes more sense that he probably hit his head or that he ultimately took his own life. Just because the search team didn't find anything doesn't mean it didn't happen. I mean, how many cases have we done where a massive search was done and years later they find the victim?
In the area that had already been searched.
Yeah.
Now, that is definitely true, but I think when you factor in the truck stop, that even is probably a greater angle where he may have hitched a ride, far away from where the crash happened. And maybe he took his life somewhere else where his body was less likely to be found. Yeah. Again, this is a real mysterious head scratching case to me. Some of the things that you would love to know, is what was troubling him? What was he going to disclose to his mother? You almost have to think if he did end his life, that was the reason. Mm-hmm. And that he was going to tell her or had plans to tell her at some point what was going on with him.
Yeah. Well, I hope for their sake that he's alive and well on some beach somewhere, and maybe one day they'll discover that.
I hope so. No doubt it's been incredibly tough over the last 8 years or so for Mike and Karen. I know on their part, they've said that they just find it hard to believe that he would do something intentionally to leave his loved ones behind, leave them in pain, and leave them never knowing what happened to him.
Yeah.
They just don't believe he would have done that. They have vowed to continue looking for their son until they learn what happened to him. And like you said, they're still hopeful that they're going to find him and be able to bring him home. Anyone with information concerning Bryce Laspisa is urged to contact California Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8777, or you can contact the local police at 949-292-4400. There is a reward for information leading to Bryce's whereabouts. But that's it, Gibbs, for our case on the disappearance of Bryce Laspisa. We got some voicemails. You want to check those out?
Let's hear them.
Okay, maybe fifth time's the charm. I'm Brian from Kansas City. Listen to you guys' podcasts when I'm outdoor dashing in the Instacart. Really helps me fly by the time. You guys are great at what you do. But anyway, I'm on the unsolved part now, and I was wanting to recommend a case to you from my little small town in Spring Hill, Kansas, of the murder of Tanya Knight. It was a very brutal murder. It was found in the woods right behind my house, and it's still unsolved to this day. It would be great to get the story out there. Also, I wanted to know if you had any Harley-Davidson ships from Kansas City. I would love to send them your way if you don't have any. I'm also about to become a Patreon member. I just had a real request to have Gibby try to pronounce my last name, because it's definitely a doozy. At the very end, I'll give you the correct pronouncing. But anyway, keep your head on a swivel and keep your own time ticking. Bye.
Awesome. Glad you're thinking about becoming a Patreon member. That case does sound like something we should look into.
It does.
The one thing that grabbed me, Gibbs, was how strange would it be to have a murder victim found essentially in your backyard?
Oh, man.
And for that crime to go unsolved for a long period of time.
Yeah, pretty freaky. I wonder if he's from, did he say Kansas City, Missouri, or Kansas City, Kansas?
Did he say Kansas City or just Kansas? I can't remember.
Kansas City.
Yeah. He did say Kansas City Harley, so you're probably right.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I have any from Kansas City or not, but I'll take them for sure.
Send some of that barbecue sauce from there too.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. How about barbecue?
Just barbecue.
Actual barbecue.
Send it.
Hello, Mike and Gibby. This is Thomas from Southern Illinois. I'm calling because my mom absolutely loves listening to your podcasts. She will not leave a voicemail, even though I've encouraged her a couple of times to do it. She absolutely refuses to. So I'm doing it for her. Just want to say she's a huge fan of the show. She listens to you morning, noon, night. She listens to you all the time. Every time I come see her, your podcast is on. I just wanted to say, thank you for being there for her. And, she enjoys you guys. All right. Thank you.
Now that's a good son right there.
It is.
And he's going to get some son brownie points for doing that.
Did he say her name?
No. Maybe she doesn't want her name said.
Okay.
I do get that. Some people don't want to hear their voices, or, they don't want to leave a voicemail. I understand that.
Yeah. But we appreciate her listening as frequent as she does.
And appreciate him taking the time to leave a voicemail on her behalf. That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, that's good. We appreciate it.
Hi, This is Alexandra calling from Illinois. I just wanted to say thank you for the entertainment while I started a new job working from home. Definitely helps keep my ADHD brain focused. I was listening to a podcast. I can't remember the episode off the top of my head, but a woman had called in, and there was a voicemail left about a man that looked like Howard Stern, and my heart sank. I recently had an experience with a guy that had curly hair and very similar facial features to Howard Stern, except he was trying to be in a romantic type towards me, I guess, and then would like totally be vulgar, and it ended very abruptly. He sent me a meme on Facebook of somebody being raped and then removed it and blocked me and just contacted me on the same day that voicemail was played on your guys' podcast. I'm located around Jacksonville, Springfield area. I don't know if this will help anybody. But yeah, my heart sank and I just had a weird feeling. Keep doing what you guys doing. You're freaking awesome. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, that's really alarming because I remember hearing the other voicemail about that.
I do too. Yeah. I don't remember where it was from, but okay, we're really giving Howard kind of a bad name here. We know it's not Howard.
Right.
It's just people that look like Howard.
Exactly.
But going back to her voicemail, obviously that's disgusting.
Sure.
And that is not the way to get a date.
No, not at all.
So, not to mention the fact that, you know, it's guys like this that give the rest of us a bad image. Guys, stop doing this stuff.
Yeah, well, this guy obviously is a real sicko.
Yeah, and she was right to, you know, cut it off, just completely distance, not reply, block, whatever you got to do. Because my thought, Gibbs, is someone that is willing to do that, what else are they willing to do? Because that's so far out there. It's such bad judgment. It's such bad etiquette. And that's not a strong enough word, but you know what I'm saying. So if you're willing to do that, what else are you capable of?
It's definitely not somebody you want to be in the same room with.
No, absolutely not.
Hey, Mike and Gibby. My name is Angel, and I live in Southeast Texas. And I just, well, that can make a blooper reel. I subscribed, can't say it, I signed up for Patreon, and I was listening to the bloopers, and that just made me love y'all so much more. As you can tell, I make a lot of bloopers myself. Anyway, Gibby, I'm talking to you now. I am Team Gibby, but don't tell Mike because I love him too. Bye.
Yeah, I won't tell him. We're just act like he's not here right now.
I didn't hear it. La 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 la.
I am concerned about the bloopers. I remember when we put that out back originally.
I used to put them out quite frequently.
Yeah.
And then it got to be, you know, just too many, too hard. But I should probably go back and do some more of those on Patreon.
Yeah, I'm a little worried.
Because people love them.
Yeah, I'm worried when you do put them out.
We'll see.
I make some mistakes.
So do I. I have some bloopers of my own.
You make a lot.
All right, buddy. That is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.